seems like the Republicans are loving, those lyrics. They've kind of been reposting it. I've been seeing the song all over Twitter, lyric videos. And this lady's catalog is just insane because trust me, you will find something that always resonates with any season of her life that she's in. It's like when you listen to even some of her oldest, tracks and some of her tracks before she was even super popular like that, you can really tell that some of the things that she really talks about there are things that are currently happening in her life, in her career. And I'm just like, is there some spiritual gift that we actually are not aware of? Because the way she has a lyric for almost every situation really has to be studied, and I hope people continue to push that. If you do come across, I'm sorry, any of those videos, please do push them forward. Start to do challenges with with that song. It's a very powerful song. I remember when it came out, I was sold. Okay, as a Christian, I was like, okay, this is beautiful. I loved that song in its entirety. But anyway, let's move on to the next thing that we're going to be talking about. Let us talk about Elon agreeing with what Nicki Minaj was saying. Now, you guys know that after the Grammy attempt to basically B-word Nicki Minaj into silence and to mock her and ridicule her, she was like, no, I'm not the one nor the two. I am going to give you exactly what you want. So she went ahead, you guys. This is a continuation from the video that I did earlier on. So she also added, as they do their ritual tonight, God Almighty will reveal himself to them. The ritual will backfire on them. God will not be mocked. You remember when I was saying to you, do not be fooled, God cannot be mocked yesterday? You guys remember that? And she said, blessed is the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Every tongue that rises up against me in judgment shall be condemned and put to shame. And I said it previously. One thing about it is do not be fooled. God can not be mocked. And honestly speaking, I do feel like there's a certain level of power that just corrupts people's minds. And I feel like the existence of God becomes blurry to them. They just feel like they can do any form of evil and get away with it. That's why you see the audacity. That's why you see sometimes you're like, but how can people do stuff like that? Man, just going through those files, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I just feel like there's a certain level of arrogance that comes with power, especially power that's not obtained in a clean way, to almost a point where one feels like they're untouchable and they can't get away with anything. And I feel like in Hollywood, this is what we have witnessed for a very long time. And it seems like it's not every celebrity that is able to withstand. It's not every celebrity that is able to, continue denying being in those rooms. I feel like at some point they're probably given ultimatums like you're going to be with us or without us. And because a lot of them do not have the backbone to stand by themselves, they end up just succumbing to that. And what ends up happening is that majority of them end up having resentment for those celebrities that dared speak up, for those celebrities that dared to not succumb to that. Because why people like Nicki Minaj are dangerous and are not to be tolerated at all by the industry is they have seen the industry for who they truly are. They know what these guys do, the sick things that they've had to do for power. People like Nicki Minaj who deny being a part of those, they've seen that. So now the veil is uncovered. And of course, they're not going to like, they're not even going to like them because, well, you know who we are. And it means that you think you're better than us because you declined to be part of us. It's just like you remember how when we were younger, if you do know something about a B word, I mean, a kid in school that's mean, I don't want to say the B word here because you know how this platform can be. So if you find out something about a person who pretends to be tough in school, let's say, for example, you pass by their house, you notice something is amiss, the home is not, something is amiss and as far as the home is concerned. That tough guy at school will in turn become mean to you when you're in public at school because now you know his secret and now he feels like he's weak and now he cannot come pretending with that facade of being this strong tough person because you have seen him and in his weaknesses. So to combat that, instinctively what he starts to do is to beward you, to try to reduce you, to try to recruit people to discredit you, so that when you say that actually, this guy is going through this because I passed through their house and this is what they were doing to him, so that when you do say that, when you tell your classmates that, no one will actually believe you because they would have discredited you. I feel like this is exactly what's happening right before our eyes. Anyway, Nikki went on further to talk about the Democrats and, the voter ID situation. And she said, what sensible, forward thinking, cutting edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not they should be voter ID? Like, they're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? So basically, she is of the belief that the reason why the Democrats do not want the presentation of voter ID is so they can bus people, from across the borders and basically have them vote, for them without having to deliver anything to the other groups of people that they, promised change and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically her logic and where she's coming from. Also, let me know in the comment section what you think about this. Let's have an interesting conversation. It's kind of been interesting seeing just how, not all hope is lost, because my comment section has kind of been enlightening me that in fact there is still hope out there. It seems like the newer generations are coming in, and it's a generation of thinkers and people who refuse to succumb to propaganda, because you guys have been having interesting, enlightening, and civilized conversations in the comment section. Of course, here and there, you're going to come across a troll, you're going to come across someone, whose IQ doesn't allow them to argue in a civilized manner, to argue without throwing insults. So, really, you guys have been doing a big one. And the comment section has been interesting for me because I've been seeing, Republicans and Democrats being able to engage in conversation without resorting to insulting one another, or saying just because you support this party, you're a sellout, or just because you support the other party, you're like this. I've kind of really been loving how you guys have been conducting yourselves in the comment section. So, as the intellectual people that you are, please, in the comment section, I would like you guys to enlighten me why you think that not having voter ID would be preferable than having people present their voter ID upon voting. You can tell me which, like, that's up to you. If you're comfortable, you can say, well, as a Democrat, I do feel like this is good, this is beneficial for this and this, that. And, if you're from the other side, you can, freely tell us also why you believe that it's a bad thing, or it's a backward thing to not want to require voter ID upon voting. Let's have a conversation about it, a logical one at that. And yeah, that's interesting actually. I'm really glad that we're having conversations like this, because the voter ID situation is interestingly always at the center of many political conversations all over the world. You would normally find out that in many countries, there is always one side that is pro strict voter ID presentation upon voting, and there is another side that will always be willing to say, okay, you can come, it doesn't have to be strict with the, voter ID presentation, blah, 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 blah. And so it's always interesting to me how that dynamic is, always plays out. But from my experience, from what I've seen, not obviously from the context of the US, oftentimes the party that is anti-voter ID, most times, oftentimes, that's a party that's questionable. There are, usually some tactics that are hidden in that logic and in that campaign of saying, oh, we don't have to be strict, or everybody residing in a place should be voting, or this and that. A lot of times when you look behind the scenes, there's some foreplay happening in as far as the votes are concerned. I would have loved to give you an in-depth example of a certain political party from a certain country that I know, that has a habit of busing people from different parts of that same country. So, for example, if you do know that you don't have a stronghold in a certain state or in a certain city, and you want the candidate from your side to win that election, what they would then do is they would bus people from their stronghold, the strongholds of their party, and then the party would go to to vote in a city that's not their forte, that's not like their stronghold. And so what ends up happening is that it will seem as if their candidate has got more support locally, when in fact it's not the truth. But all that is made possible if there are no strict policies around voter ID and records and stuff that can be easily manipulated. But it's an interesting conversation. Let's have that conversation in the comment section. But that being said, one person who decided to chime in is none other than Elon Musk. Now listen, Elon Musk is not one that I would just agree with. I'm sorry, it's a lot of things that I don't subscribe to, especially about that guy. Like, I just, no. Speaking about propaganda, he's also one of those people that I do feel like to a certain extent. He does push propaganda when when it actually benefits him. Remember the South African situation and that propaganda that he was at the forefront of pushing. But that being said, he seems to agree with what Nicki Minaj had to say about, the voter ID, because he replied, he quoted Nicki Minaj's tweet and basically put, emojis of the American flag. So let me know in the comment section, you guys, what you think about all this situation. He's also mentioned in the files, if you guys didn't know, but it seems like, I don't know if he was just being intentionally daft or what, but it seems like he wasn't catching on with what was happening and what was being proposed to him. I don't know if that's just him being a nerd, or if he was intentionally trying to act like he's not understanding what's going on. In as much as I don't like him, it is also to note that he's one of the few people that I've seen actually saying, you know what, do not redact those names and bring those people to book. And he's kind of been advocating, for the people that are involved in this entire debacle to be charged. He's one of the very few people that I've been seeing advocating that everybody who had anything to do with what was happening on that island should be brought to book and should be charged accordingly. Because according to him, it's useless to just bring out those names and not do anything about it. Like, what's that meant to do? And with that, I do agree with what he has to say. See how I don't like Elon? See how I don't subscribe to a lot of his propaganda that he likes to spread, but see how when he's making sense, I also acknowledge that. How is that hard to do? Like, why can't you guys just do the same? You can do the same when it comes to some people that you also don't like, eh? To just mark everything as BS just because you don't like a person doesn't make any sense. And I'm starting to think that this is probably the reason why those people that come to my Instagram come expecting or waiting for me to be switching on Nicki Minaj or like jumping ship and going to their favorite sides. I guess it's because I keep my, I keep the shade lighthearted, so they think there's a possibility for me to overlook the, wicked things that their favorite artists, do to other people. Somehow they come here and think that because when Advovo BBO is done wrong by Offset, able to call out and say no, what Offset did was wrong, or when Bongo 2, when I refuse to go in hard on Bongo 2 about the tourist situation because really, to be honest, I do not have the facts. When I question without disrespecting Bongo 2, or like when I come here and show sympathy when kids are involved, all of a sudden, you guys think that that means that I like that person. No, sometimes what's bad is bad, what's wrong is wrong, and that's just how I feel like we should move. So I do hope some of you get where I'm always coming from when I still acknowledge that even somebody that I like, somebody that has done bad to another person, if I do acknowledge that what was done to them was wrong, and then I still go on to say, but I do believe that this is karma at work. And sometimes if I do deliver the worst news about someone in a way that still shows empathy, regardless of how evil that person may seem, this is why. It's because at the end of the day, I advocate for a world where we can acknowledge that I don't like this person because how they make me feel, but doesn't mean that they're not talented. I don't like that person because she awakens some insecurities within me, but in this instance, she's speaking the truth. That's all we advocate for. That's all we want. Just grown up, mature conversations where we don't reduce a person to our personal feelings. We don't reduce an entire, artist's existence to what we personally feel. For example, how they treat Nicki Minaj. Just because you don't like her doesn't mean that she's not talented. And if there's anyone that I would not engage in a conversation with, it's somebody who says Nicki Minaj is not talented because she's a horrible person. Now, I mean, wha- how are these two correlated? Like, she's a mean person, so she's not talented. She's a mean person, so she's cancelled. She's a mean person, so her career is over. Just because you say it doesn't make it a reality. And how am I supposed to argue with that, honestly? This has turned into yet another rant. Oh my god, too political. I feel like I'm Candace Owens now. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing that we're going to be talking about. Speaking about still congratulating people, congratulations to Doechii for winning a Grammy yet again for her song Anxiety, I guess the music video. Now, as someone who was just calling out people for still acknowledging that somebody is talented, even if they don't like them, even if they don't subscribe to the propaganda behind them, in this episode, I'm gonna say congratulations, and I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm gonna keep it moving. Congratulations to the swamp, to the alligators. Moving on to the next thing that we're gonna be talking about. I didn't see Punch tweet about this actually. What's going on? Kendrick also got a lot of awards. Caesar got some awards or an award. Basically, it was TDE Grammys, especially for the black community, which is a beautiful thing. If they like it, we absolutely love it. Congratulations, to Punch and to the title swindler, because I mean, clearly this was their doing. Let's move on to the next thing that we're going to be talking about. It seems like the president wasn't pleased by a joke that was made by South African comedian Trevor Noah. Not only did Trevor come for Nicki Minaj, but he also decided to come for Drake unprovoked again. I guess he's just doing his job. I guess when they say this is who we want roasted, that's what he does. No one can tell what the man has had to do in Hollywood to retain his job, given how much bad his ratings were in as far as his previous gig was concerned, and the fact that they let him go or he walked away with dignity. We don't know what it took for his walk away, so-called walk away. I put that in quotes. Step down, step away, whatever you want to call it. We cannot tell what he had to do to be let go with so much, with such dignity, because we know that a lot of times Hollywood is not that lenient. Okay, they're very brutal. Once the ratings are down and you're cancelled or kicked out, they will make a mockery out of you. They will make a scandal out of you. But for him, it seems like it was a soft landing from his gig that clearly wasn't really bringing in the viewership as it used to when the previous host was, and the fact that he still maintained to retain that relationship with the Grammy Awards to be able to host many years in a row. So I guess some of the jokes are just part of the obligations that he has to fulfill in exchange for something. I'm just saying, in my own opinion, and allegedly. But that being said, Trump is not here for it, and he's threatening to sue. He called him out, called him unfunny, and at this point, At this point, I'm just looking and I'm like, everything that I'm seeing is just like people are so unserious. It's like, on the other hand, there's Newsom who's obsessed with Nicki Minaj for some reason. I guess he's mad that the name that Nicki Minaj gave him stuck so well. And so he's very, like, it's very weird to see an entire governor being obsessed with an artist to this level. Like, it's awkward. It's really, really, really concerning. But that being said, Trump, on the other hand, is calling out Trevor Noah, and Trevor is also on Twitter posting clips from his comedy shows, I guess, to seem unbothered, to seem, to appear not scared. This is the same Trevor Noah that wouldn't even dare step his feet into a neighboring country of South Africa because he was scared of the dictator that was there. And he was like, I cannot make jokes about that man and without getting in trouble. So I wouldn't dare do that. But it's beautiful to see him expand his wings and express his freedom, especially when it comes to America. And I saw some people in the comment sections defending his joke about Nicki Minaj, saying that as an immigrant, he's entitled to feel how he feels about Nicki Minaj. And my question to you would be: is she the only person who supports Donald Trump? Or is the democracy only limited to certain people? There are a lot of white people that were in that room at the Grammys that are very much pro the current administration. We didn't see him try to come for them. But for some reason, it's a black woman that is comfortable calling out. So is there even democracy for the average black woman in the Democratic Party? Is there democracy for them? Or it's limited to certain people? Or it's only democracy when you go with what they require you to? But then how is that democracy when it's like that? When your political choice is predetermined, when your political choice is made on your behalf, where is the democracy in that? I promise you, if it were Beyonce who had, said, I'm affiliating with this, he wouldn't have dared. Do you know why? Because there's Jay-Z to protect Beyonce. But because there's nobody to protect Nicki Minaj in the industry, he felt so comfortable. And to me, that just shows somebody who's weak, because someone who's not really weak does not prey on who they think or perceive as a weaker target. That's the behavior of weaker men, in my own opinion. And certainly he has kind of lost respect in my eyes, in my own opinion. Just because you're an immigrant doesn't give you the right to dictate to another immigrant how they should move and how they should choose. The same way he's been hosting the Grammys in and out for years, the same academy that has been disrespectful to Nicki Minaj. We never saw her coming out, G's blazing, saying Trevor Noah, coming for him. But he has benefited from a system that has also deprived Nicki Minaj of her rights also as an artist, of fair treatment as an artist. But he eats with that academy. He sits on tables with those executives. But not once did we see Nicki Minaj coming for him just because he's dining with those people. And I would need you guys to not reduce the Nicki Minaj situation to just the snubbing at the Grammys. This woman literally had her change room pew-pewed. Multiple, times her home was swatted. That's how serious this stuff is. So if you think that your issues with the policies of a certain political party are important and people are to put your own interest at heart before theirs, you should also be able to do the same for them. Is that not right? Because what may seem serious to you may not be serious to another person. What may seem serious to her, the fact that her home is getting swatted and these execs are allegedly wanting her down as in literally, with the pew-pewing of a changing room and stuff, to them it's not serious, right? To them it's a conspiracy theory. To them it's a laughing matter, right? And they continue to work with the same executives. But they want to dictate, on the other hand, how the woman who is desperate to get protection is moving. Meanwhile, she's doing all of this to protect herself from the executives that you're dining with. And I really, at this point, don't want to know what you guys are feasting on the table. I don't want to know what you guys are serving each other on that table, given how disgusting the recent files have been like. But anyway, let's move on to the next thing that we're going to be talking about. Lizzie. Lizzie might have gotten her Nicki Minaj stimulus. She was able to get it. She's been hunting for it. She's been shading her for a long time. And she finally got the response that she wanted. One thing about Nicki Minaj is she's not afraid to go below the belt if you decide to go that route, okay? And if you just don't like someone, just say it, out clearly. Because what position are you out there trying to sell? So this girl is trying to insinuate that Nicki Minaj is going, on Trump's side for financial benefits. People don't do just these things for free. I'm not surprised if other celebrities come out and start to do the same thing. There's money behind this. Well, you would know better. Maybe that's how you guys have been moving on your side. Have you guys been collecting checks? Pretending to care about immigrants? Pretending to care about causes that you don't care about? Were you guys getting incentivized? Are you trying to tell us that the people that were performing for, the vice president in her rallies were getting incentivized. Meanwhile, we were celebrating them and giving them flowers, saying that they are for the people. Is that what Liz is trying to say? Or this only applies when it comes to Nicki Minaj and when she starts dining with people that you don't like? Well, fortunate for her, she got the attention she was looking for, and Nicki called her all sorts of things, and also had to highlight his 300, her 300, I mean, album sales. I do know that in the next award ceremony that we're gonna see, it's gonna be Lizzo being awarded for a new category that we didn't know, and then her going on stage crying, or the next thing we're gonna see her on some Essence festival or some podcast from Essence, and she's gonna be talking about body positivity, and Jennifer Hudson is gonna be nodding her head, just in sympathy and crying. I can see the scene already, and several women are going to come out here in solidarity with Lizzo. They're gonna feel sorry for her, and they will probably must buy a single if she releases a single saying that, oh, I love my body, blah blah blah. They're gonna love that. And probably she's gonna make a cameo also at Advovo BBL's tour, and Advovo BBL is going to shout and look at her and say, "You're a beautiful woman, Lizzo, with or without the weight."